What's going on, everybody? My name's LeakyTapsMan, and this is my top 25 games of all time, so that's all generations, all consoles and PC, and this is the first part, which will be from game 25 down to 11. And what I'll do is I'll give you the title of the game, and then I'll go into either a brief synopsis or the reasoning why it is on the list. As for gameplay, I'm probably going to keep the gameplay with one particular game, rather than mishmashing them together because it brings a lot of copyright issues up. But what I will do is attach annotations, so if you like the sound of a particular game or you've not really heard about it, then you can click on the annotation and go watch another video of it by a random user. I'll make it so it opens in a new window so you can carry on watching this. But enough yapping, I'll get down to the list. Okay, coming in at number 25 is Fallout 3. Now, I'm going to be frank, I barely knew of Fallout's existence before Fallout 3, and even in the previews, I just thought it looked kind of cool, but I wasn't really looking forward to it to any extent. And I remember I had several choices of games to get the week that it came out that all looked very good, and for whatever reason I opted for Fallout 3, and I was absolutely blown away by it. Everything just wowed me. At its most derivative level of description, it's basically the Elder Scrolls in a post-apocalyptic world, but that doesn't do it justice. Just the level of freedom that you had, the whole atmosphere of the game was superb, the enemies were great, and that moment when you stepped out of the vault for the first time and you saw that whole post-apocalyptic world, that was one of the most epic moments in gaming. So for those reasons, Fallout 3 gets a spot. In at number 24 is BioShock. BioShock was another one where atmosphere played a huge role. It had this whole crazy Art Deco theme, the story was fascinating, the gameplay was superb, graphics were insanely good for the time, and just everything about the game went beyond the expectations that I had for it, which were already sky high. Definitely one of the finer moments this generation. Alright, at number 23 I have Resident Evil 4. I have to admit I wasn't a massive fan of the original Resident Evils, mainly because I'm just a total coward when it comes to playing horror games. But Resi 4 changed all that, they brought in more action elements, but still kept a fair bit of the horror within that. I know many core Resi fans were not advocates of that change, but Resident Evil 4 for me was absolutely incredible. From the boss fights to the setting, which was, again, atmospheric. I don't just base my opinions on atmosphere, but it does make a pretty big impact. And at number 22, we have Dark Chronicle, also known as Dark Cloud 2 in America, I believe. I'm thinking that this may be one that a lot of people are unfamiliar with, but you owe it to yourselves to try this game. It is a cel-shaded RPG, the combat was fantastic, it had this whole photography system where you got points for photographing certain items, which doesn't sound particularly great on its own, but it was really addictive. The story kept me gripped, the gameplay kept evolving as you went on in the game. It didn't just keep things simple, it expanded as you progressed. And all in all, just all factors considered, it was an absolutely phenomenal game. So it is well worth checking out. At number 21, I went for Splinter Cell Chaos Theory. I'm a huge fan of the Splinter Cell series, and to me, Chaos Theory was the most complete of the lot. The single player was great, it had loads of memorable levels, the co-op was absolutely superb, that was probably my favourite part of the game. Obviously, Spies vs Mercs is another superb game mode. The graphics were way beyond what the technology could do at the time, and just everything about the game felt complete. It felt like the complete stealth package. And for me, the Splinter Cell series hasn't come close to replicating that kind of game since. But Chaos Theory truly was one of the highlights of last gen for me. And that is why it has made it in this list. Alright, at number 20, we have Dragon Age Origins. This, kind of like Fallout 3, was one where I wasn't particularly hyped for it. I kind of bought it with a wait-and-see approach rather than really being psyched for it. And it turned out to be one of the best Western RPGs ever. In my opinion, it was absolutely fantastic. The story was great, the characters were absolutely amazing. You could put in loads of hours and it never felt tedious or boring. There were loads of different avenues you could take. There was fantastic DLC for the game, and it just paid homage to the fact that BioWare truly are, or at least were, one of the best RPG developers. Alright, at number 19, I went for Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. Now, I'll say right off the bat, I absolutely hate skating. I hate everything to do with it. and yet I found myself playing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 for an ungodly amount of time back on the PlayStation 1. There are just some games that click with you, and this was one of them. Just something about the game was so incredibly addictive. From collecting every last tape to beating your high scores, the incredible soundtrack, just Tony Hawk's in its prime was an incredible thing. And whilst 3 and 4 were very good in my opinion, 2 was the absolute pinnacle. So that's why it's made it to a relatively high point in this list. Okay, at number 18, I went for The Elder Scrolls Skyrim. Now, I started playing The Elder Scrolls properly at Oblivion, although I had tried Morrowind beforehand, and whilst the games felt very good and a huge wealth of options, they had some questionable choices with their gameplay, and Skyrim basically just rectified all those problems. The game just felt so incredibly complete, and everything just seemed to fit. What Bethesda managed to do with the current technology was quite outstanding, and the ridiculous amount of hours that you can put into the game, the amount of quests you can do, just goes to show how much effort they really put into making this game. And it was an absolute blast from start to finish, so Skyrim was an easy choice for this list, and the fact that it is as low down as 18 just goes to show how great these other games are. Okay, at number 17, I went for Pokemon Blue/Red. /Yellow, I guess, you can include that one. But anyway, the first generation of Pokemon games. I, like many of you probably, was an absolute Pokemon addict back in the day. I used to get the cards and all that jazz. And even outside of the whole Pokemon phenomena, the Game Boy games were simply incredible RPGs. There was so much to do, the games were so incredibly addictive, and nothing beat going into school with your Game Boy and your link cable and kicking your friend's ass with your level 100 Charizard. You can't buy memories like that. So that's why Pokemon Blue/Red/Yellow is at number 17. And at number 16, I went for Super Smash Bros. Melee. Now, I pretty much hate fighting games with a passion, beat 'em ups in their traditional sense, but the Super Smash Bros. Series, I have got so much time for. And Melee, for me, was the best of the bunch. From the stages, to the characters, to the fact that you could collect trophies, the adventure mode was a great addition. It expanded upon the original so well, and it really showed off what the GameCube could do at the time. It had that rapid gameplay that really rewarded skill and ingenuity, and whilst many of you may think that Brawl is the better all-round game, I think that Melee was definitely more impressive for the time, but definitely a fantastic all-round game. Okay, at number 15, I have gone for The Curse of Monkey Island. This may be another one that a lot of you are thinking, what the hell is that? Well, basically, it's a point-and-click adventure game, the third one in the Monkey Island series, which is a superb series, but Curse of Monkey Island in particular left a lasting impression on me. The cartoon-style graphics were really good, and just suited the game perfectly. It had this amazing sense of humour. Point-and-click games always seem to have a good sense of humour, but this one really shone for me. It was a game that wasn't easy to figure out the puzzles, but it wasn't ridiculously hard like some point-and-click adventure games. And all in all, it was my favourite game of the genre, which is no mean feat because I'm a big fan of those types of games. For number 14, I went for Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Now, I know Grand Theft Auto 3 was obviously the more revolutionary one. It basically brought open world gaming to the third dimension, but Vice City just had so much going for it. The setting was perfect, the whole Miami theme. Tommy Vercetti was an awesome character. There were so many great secondary characters. Just so many elements of the game were absolutely incredible. And for me, it was the best Grand Theft Auto by quite some way. And that is no easy task. And at number 13, another Rockstar game, Red Dead Redemption. What can I say about Red Dead Redemption that doesn't undersell it? This game is probably the most complete game I've played this generation, and there have been a lot of well-polished games. Just everything about it just felt right, which is such a poor description. I really can't do it justice, this game. The whole western setting was superb. The missions, barring a few rubbish ones at the start, were incredible. The characters were amazing, especially the main character, John Marston. But everything about Red Dead Redemption just felt like they had really put so much time and effort into the game. No aspect felt rushed, and the whole game just felt incredibly refined. And for me, it is the best game of this generation. And it epitomised Rockstar's status as being a god amongst the developers. Okay, at number 12, I went for Final Fantasy X. I'm a big Final Fantasy fan, and Final Fantasy X was just an amazing game from start to finish. The graphics for the time were amazing. They really blew me away at the time. The battle system was probably my favourite of any Final Fantasy. The characters were all amazing and incredibly memorable, which is a key point for me in an RPG. There was so much to do, so much to see, a great variety of locations, and some of the best music that I've heard in a game. So Final Fantasy X gets a big thumbs up from me. And to finish off this video, number 11 in my top 25 games of all time is Halo 2. Halo is another franchise that I'm a big fan of. And the reason why Halo 2 has got so high in this list is the fact that the multiplayer was, simply put, my favourite multiplayer experience ever. It basically got me behind Xbox Live as a concept. I wasn't sure of it beforehand. The matchmaking system was far beyond its time, for console gaming at least. The graphics were great. Although I don't think that I'm basing this list on graphics because I'm not a graphics whore, but amazing graphics can really add to your favourable impression of a game. But anyway, it had really tight gunplay, a superb set of modes, a lot of customization for the custom games, and just in general it was a fantastic game, single player included. So that rounds off my top 25 list part 1, which was 25 to 11. If at this point you're thinking, oh my god, where is game XYZ, then I will tell you wait a few days for the second part, and it might be there, and if it's not, then you have permission to burn down your local post office in rage. So thanks for watching. Be sure to watch part 2 when that comes out, and if it's already out, then I will put a link in the description, so be sure to check it out. Thanks for watching. If you could like, that would be awesome. Subscribe and Twitter, yada yada yada, that would be awesome too. Thanks. Goodbye.